Alright, sports fans, first part of the first turn, Russians won the roll and selected to make the Germans move first. So the Germans have completed their first move, and we're going to go over the strategy that I'm going to use for the German Panzergrenadier force. I'm going to be moving this group of Panthers up to this patch of woods. They're going to basically move into those woods. It'll be a bogging check for them next turn, but at this point they have no targets in sight, but they're moving to occupy this wood for cover. This platoon of 3 tanks of Panthers is going to stay in this woods for cover so they can get their full rate of fire. And I'm positioning this platoon of King Tigers in a wedge pattern. The thought is that they can either hold this right flank or they can reinforce the left flank from this position. I'm holding back my Fallschirmjägers that we have had dropped in to fill the ranks, and they have been put into these half tracks. I'm holding them in reserve, and hopefully we can bust a hole where they can shoot down the middle or something and take that objective, since that's the point of the game. The German objective back in this corner is an artillery battery with a command team, and then we have 2 elephants. They've basically stayed put. I've moved up the spotter team for the Germans up behind this hedgerow. And so the first order of business, since the Germans have made their first move, is they are going to target in on this ISU 152 platoon with the artillery. So we're getting ready. The Germans are going to call in an artillery strike from their mobile spotter team that's in the kick-butt little motorcycle sidecar, which I love using that thing. And then we got the amphibious vehicle, which is the spotter team for this rocket battery back here. I've got 2 guys. They're basically, their main task is to throw smoke. So at this point, I'm not calling in any smoke bombardments yet. I think I'm going to hold it here, but for smoke, what we've done, and for those of you guys just starting in the game, you're just going to lay down a template. Since I don't have any short side, you're supposed to lay it, it says firing battery arrow, you're supposed to point this towards the short side. But since I have a square board, we just want to square this with the entire board, and roll a 6-sided dice, and we scored a 5, which means the way the template was resting, the smoke is traveling this direction with this road for the entire course of the game. So when I do call in a smoke bombardment, we'll go over that roll, which is basically a targeting roll, just like firing artillery, any artillery piece. And then the smoke will drift this direction based on where I range in. So you're going to have to try to account for the wind a little bit, because you know that it is going to drift after you fire it. So you're kind of wanting to fire upwind a little bit to try to account for that. So you kind of want to target a little bit, in this case, to the right of where I anticipate the smoke is going to drift this direction. So let's go ahead. I'm going to make up the roll, and then I'll come right back and I'll let you know what happened with this artillery firing. And then after the firing is done and the battery is fired, it'll be the time for the Russians to make their first move. Okay, we fired the bombardment, and for you guys that are new, we take the template. We've got to take the targeted team, which has since moved, but he was roughly there. But once you point this, it says pointing that towards the firing battery. I actually ended up being able to pick at 2 of the IS 122s. Those are not 152s, they're 122s. I've got 3 platoons of 122s, not 152s. So basically I scored a successful hit. I rolled 2 dice since there were 2 tanks under the template, and I got 1 hit but it did not penetrate. My anti-tank rating for this these 10.5 centimeter howitzers is a 4, and the top armor 0. But so they rolled a save, and they basically saved. So I couldn't bail them out or anything. But at least it's a something I can at least shoot, and I can definitely fire these directly at tanks. You know, that may come around these sides. I can actually fire directly, and they have an anti-tank of 10 for firing straight at tanks. So they actually will help protect this command team. Now, since I do have a staff team with this battery, since I've already ranged in, if that platoon had not moved, I could just automatically fire at them again next turn. But since they've moved, I'll have to re-range in on them if I choose to fire at them next turn. So the Russians have gone ahead and made their initial move. They don't have any shots, but I kind of wanted to show you where the strategy for the Soviets. I'm basically got 2 attack platoons on the right flank here. So what I've done is I've just done the full 12-inch move, and you know what? I need to check on that because I think these are rated as a slow tank. If that's the case, I've got to move those back a few inches. So I'll go to my handy thing, and that's what's nice about this program I have, guys, is this prints out everything that I have. Heavy tank, they're not affected by hen and chick, and I'm not seeing anything about the IS-2s being a slow tank. I know the 122s are rated as a slow tank, and the difference there, guys, for those of you that are new, is the standard movement through normal open terrain for a standard tank is 12 inches. Now if you're a slow tank like these 122s, you're limited to an 8-inch move. So it slows you down, but they're supposed to be pretty powerful tanks. So these two, this 2-gun platoon is basically just moved up to the road. They're going to just face this woods, anticipating action. This auxiliary platoon of IS-2s is basically moving up, preparing to move out in this direction, and then I moved the 122s off of this hill, simply just down the hill, the bottom of the hill, so there's no bogging check. They went straight down the hill, and they're going to park behind this hedgerow. I'm still going to hold my infantry in reserve that are in these trucks, you know, to see how the battle develops, and then I will possibly move them in, or they will just retreat, depending on how the battle works out. Again, here's our staff team for the Russians, and they're being protected by these ZIS-3 guns and a command tank. So that's basically how the first round has gone down. The Russians really don't have any return fire since they're limited to a 32-inch range. Germans are pretty much going to hold in a defensive posture since they're outnumbered, and that way the idea is the Germans can have their full rate of fire if they stay stationary. Now the only platoon that's going to affect at the start of the next turn is this platoon of Panthers that are going to move into the woods. So we'll go ahead and get that German move for the turn round 2 of movement, and we'll come back and I'll let you see what happened. Alright guys, this is how we're playing it today. We're going to get back to the next move here. Name that movie.
10, 7.
Oh, it gives it away! Kelly's Heroes! We got some Kelly's Heroes on, and I'm gonna show you the next German move that I just did. So the German Panther platoon successfully moved into these woods. They needed a 2 or better for a bogging check and a difficult going, and they passed. They all got more than 2. They are now set up in the woods. They are actually, all 3 of them, going to fire at these 122s. So that's going to be interesting. They'll get 1 shot each since they moved. These guys are out of range. They're ineffective right now, but I'm kind of holding them back as a reserve. I got my 2 Kings right here. They were just outside of that 40-inch range to get onto those, pop on those 122s, but I do have the other 2 Kings are going to be definitely within 40 inches, and they're going to pop on these other two 122s. So this Russian platoon of 122s is basically going to just take some serious beating this turn. Coming up the middle, kind of like in football, you know, you're going to come up the middle, you're going to get hammered. You know, I just pivoted this this left side elephant. They get 2 shots, 2 pops at the side. Now, here's for you new players, you'll just come down, get down to your knee, and this is just called your typical line of sight. And you just take a line of sight from the firing units, and they are going to take the 122s will get a concealment advantage because they are slightly behind that hill. But you can see when you have great terrain like this and a nice board, it really helps the game out. Now obviously this is a more open plain area. There's not a whole lot of trees and woods in this area because it is a factory area. And some of the games that we'll set up here in the future will have a lot more woods and hills, which gives you some more. So basically I've got this spotter team and the little motorcycle, and there again, guess who gonna get ranged in on that middle command tank with the commander sticking up in the front there. He's gonna get popped. So that's what we're looking at. That's from the German vantage point, and it'll be interesting to see if that 122 team survives. So let me make my rolls. We'll come back and I'll give you the results of what happens. Oh, the middle team out of nothing in range yet. Again, another kind of a reserve platoon. It's actually technically my command team. And we're still holding back the Fallschirmjägers. The Fallschirmjägers are waiting to sprint down the field to take the objective, hopefully. All right, let's do some rolls and see what the Germans can do. Okay, as I predicted, that middle platoon basically got just thumped. The command tank has bailed out. The other 2 tanks were destroyed. They just couldn't stand up. It was just too much firepower coming at them. As a side note, we had 3 shots coming down range at these 122s, and they bounced. And we got a hit, but it didn't penetrate. So yeah, that's what happens sometimes. All right, now on to the Russians get to move and fire. Okay, sports fans, left to right, the Russian 122 team stayed put, returned fire at the woods. No hits. They were only allowed 2 shots. The rate of fire is 1. Moved this platoon up. We were able to get 2 shots from the IS-2s into the woods. Those both missed. Something that's hurting the Russians right now is if the Germans are in cover and it's greater than 16 inches, it's a +2 to their 2 hit rolls, which makes them have to roll 6s. So I don't know. The objective is really what the game is about. So the Russians can lose huge numbers of materiel and still win by taking the objective. So we'll see how this pans out. I went ahead and moved these out to try to counteract the Kings, which is going to be tough, but they couldn't get a shot off this turn, but by next turn they'll be able to move in a better position to fire. We got the command tank did not get back in his tank. He failed his motivation test. I'm starting to bring the infantry around here. I've pretty well decided I'm going to do a right flank sweep for that objective with the infantry platoon, which is going to come up this side. So I'm doing a big push to the right. I'm basically going to do a feinted attack over here to try to pin these units down if I can, and then I'm just going to have to bum rush the elephants. So we got 3 shots from these IS-2s that fired at this elephant on the hill, and they all bounced. They did not hit. And something for you guys that are new to the game, you would think, well, he's got a clear shot at the side of the tank, so you use side armor. That's not true. You technically need to get this at IS-2. To get a side shot, he'd have to be here. So he has to be behind this front plane, the front of the vehicle, to get a side shot. So if he's in front like this, he still gets the front armor attack rating. So put him back where he was. So that's not going to be a benefit for the Soviet player at this point. He's going to be doing front shots, and these elephants are brutal. So what I'm probably going to have to do is I'm going to have to send these to the flank, and I'm going to have this secondary platoon do a sweep to this side. But the problem I have now is we're dealing with these kings over here, so it's going to be interesting. That's why I'm hoping I can use those 122s and those IS-2s to try to pin these guys down, so that I can make this move over here to try to neutralize these elephants. And about the only thing I can do at this point, since the Germans are really just sitting and getting their full rate of fire at the Soviets, I'm going to have to get those trucks up here ASAP to try to bum rush this command team. Alright, so that's basically how it went down for the Soviets, and we'll be back with movement number 3.